Hi, everybody. This is Ryan with If You Don't Have It, You Can't Sell It. And today I'm joined by Craig Barnell again of Fisher's Finery. And we wanted to talk to you about MCF as well as our other integrations and how it could be best used for your company and how Fisher's Finery uses it in conjunction with Inventory Optimizer to run their business.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. It's a lot of our newest clients that are onboarding with Inventory Optimizer are really focused on multi-channel sales. And, it wasn't that long ago that we were kind of a one-trick pony, right? We really were super integrated with Amazon, but not much else. And over the last, 90 to 120 days, we've launched native integrations with ShipStation and with Shopify. So now the data sets that we can pull and the information we can get has expanded, exponentially. Um, so, if you're a seller and you're integrating your inventory into using ShipStation, we can pull all that data in and forecast. If you're using Shopify, same thing. So one of the things that's come up more recently are the folks that are using Amazon is really their direct to consumer fulfillment network for both FBA and multi-channel fulfillment. So when they're deploying multiple sales channels like we are, we're using one concentric inventory that is Amazon centric. It's Amazon AWD, which we track not only grounded, inventory at AWD, but also transfer into FCs. And then we go from AWD to FBA. And Ryan, there's so many nuances in that FBA. What are the things that we track in the FBA feed?
Oh, yeah. So we track inbound, we track inbound from AWD. We track inbound to AWD. Basically, if it exists inside of the Amazon ecosystem, we're tracking it in one way or another.
Great. And that includes FC transfers and all those things.
Absolutely, yeah. Anything that's happening inside of FBA, FC transfers, reserved inventory, um, inventory removals, we're tracking any changes that are being made to your inventory, including specifically MCF.
Awesome. So the reason that that's so important on a nuance level to get down into the weeds is that when you're talking multi-channel sales and being supported by Amazon FBA and MCF, we know that the Shopify feed does not recognize the inventory as quote unquote saleable unless it's slotted in an FC, which is different than the Amazon network because Amazon, as long as it's intra-network moving between AWD and a fulfillment center, it's live and it's buyable. You'll see those listings online where it'll say, we'll be there in 4 days or 5 days. It's a physical product. Amazon's tracking the sales, but it's not slotted yet so that it can be picked. The MCF feed must be slotted before it's live. So there are times where we'll show, 2,000 of our best-selling individual ASIN on Amazon, and yet our Shopify store it does not have the ability to take sales because none of that product is actually slotted in FC. And that turns back around to why it's so important to use Inventory Optimizer if you're using Amazon as multi-channel fulfillment. The Amazon system does a great job in many different areas, but where it really doesn't help us is segmenting sales that are non-FBA, i.e. anything coming into the feed that's fulfilled through MCF. We recognize all of the demand. When we do our AI-driven forecasting and take into replenishment through Restock AMZ, we are displaying a replenishment model that incorporates all fulfillment from multi-channel sales. And we look at it all the time. A young lady on my staff, Kayla, who's primarily responsible for that facet of our business, she'll download, Ryan, you've seen it a number of times, you work with Kayla. She'll download what Amazon's recommendations are for replenishment, and then we'll look at ours. And on the high selling, we have some products that sell better off Amazon than they do on, or in higher volume. And so the replenishment is oftentimes 2 to 3 times what FBA is recommending because we're incorporating the demand from MCF. So the bottom line is if you're going to use a AI-driven forecasting tool for ordering and replenishment, we've got you covered on all sides. We've got you covered to order from your distributor or your manufacturer to make sure you've got enough product in flow to support demand. And then we've also got you covered to take all demand from a multi-channel perspective take a look holistically across the entire Amazon ecosystem from AWD to FBA to MCF and make sure you're restocking appropriately.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig. The one, I guess, another quick question I had for you is why, or maybe it's not so quick, why have you moved to Shopify and away from Amazon as your core business? I shouldn't say that. You maintain both as your core, but you've put a enhanced focus on Shopify this year over Amazon.
Ryan, I think it's no different than if you think about old style box retail. It's one thing to be in the mall selling a product where people can check a whole bunch of different stores. Then you've got companies like Kohl's or Target who build a standalone store. So if you're in the store, where are you comparing it against? In the store. So if you think about it from the perspective of selling in a marketplace, um, and Amazon has fueled our business. We run an 8-figure account. Um, every time I'm around the people at Amazon, no matter who they are, I thank them for what they've done to help us get to where we've gotten to. We didn't have to buy trucks. We didn't have to get tape machines and learn how to order cardboard boxes. And, we didn't have to do any of that stuff, right? So the ability to scale is remarkable, but nothing's perfect. So in a marketplace environment, Ryan, Amazon allows competitors and even non-competitors, people that are selling knockoff merchandise, to advertise on listings. And so it creates a lot of noise. And when there's noise and disruption like that, it doesn't create the best buying environment, at least not for a branded seller like us. And like not a week goes by that there aren't multiple Amazon deliveries with 4 kids at our house all the time. But in a branded environment, there's a reason why you can establish a much greater relationship with a customer when you can control the information and you can value the customer's experience and time. So on the Shopify side, our repeat customer rate is 2.5 times higher than Amazon. So in Amazon, we're in the 15% range. In Shopify, we always stay in the 30 to 40% range. Um, and even with our top level number of customers doubling on Shopify, our repeat customer rate has maintained. Customers who buy a second time, 70% of them buy a third time or more. So for that reason, Ryan, it makes sense for us to establish that relationship. That and once people discover a brand and gain a level of comfort and faith that the brand is valuing their time and their experience and their money, people become very sticky. And so we've been blessed that our customer base outside of Amazon has been, very, very loyal, and it continues to be so. So to answer your question directly, it's just we can reward the customer experience. We can build a rewards program. We can do specials and enhancements for our customers on Shopify that just don't exist yet or aren't available on Amazon. And at the end of the day, it's also more profitable. So, Amazon's wonderful, but there's no referral fee on Shopify. So it creates a different set of rules and a different degree of margin so that you can invest more heavily in your customer.
Thank you, Craig. And to anybody out there who's interested in MCF for their business, who want to talk to us about how they could expand just from selling on FBA to MCF, we're there to talk. We could talk about managed services that Inventory Optimizer can provide with help from Fisher's Finery staff since they've been doing this. How long have you been on MCF? Since 2014?
Yeah,
2015?
since it wasn't called MCF and it was answered by a young lady at a warehouse, an Amazon warehouse in New Jersey. I actually had the good fortune to meet one of the people that were on that first beta call when we were involved in the beta to create MCF at Accelerate, in autumn there. It was really wonderful, Ryan. I got to meet a bunch of the people that recognized me because of the amount of how close we've been to the journey with MCF. Very rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, and so if anyone out there is interested in hearing that story as well, that probably is going to have a dedicated video on how MCF got started. But also, if you need help getting MCF set up for your business, please just reach out. You can see our details below, and we'd love to speak to you to see how Inventory Optimizer, as well as how the staff here at Fisher's Finery too can help get you started on MCF, as well as if you're already selling on MCF and you want to get better visibility and better forecasting, how we could use Inventory Optimizer to do that.
Yeah,
Thank
and Ryan, we just concluded that consulting agreement we had with that seller that is using Inventory Optimizer. So we do have a slot open if someone wants consulting services to jump in with the full team. And I believe, Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, that seller, when we handed business back off to him after we got everything set up, we were talking savings of between $6,000 and $7,000 a month by just reconfiguring his warehousing and supply chain. So it's meaningful, and it all starts with having a forecast that you can rely on, and we've got that nailed.
Yeah, I think it was even more than that. So, yeah, if anyone out there is interested in that, please, again, reach out. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Ryan.